U.S.A. Houston, the city, the fourth in the number of inhabitants in the United States of America and the largest city in the state of Texas with the population of 2,304,580 people according to a population census of 2020. It is the administrative center of the District of Harris and also the main economic center of agglomeration of the Big Houston, taking the fifth place among agglomerations on the population with the total number of 7,122,240 people by results of a census of 2020. The city is located in 50 kilometers from the Gulf of Mexico on the coastal plain. Houston was based on August 30, 1836 and included in structure of the Republic Texas on June 5, 1837, having received the name in honor of Samuel Houston, the Commander-in-Chief of Army of Texas during the Texas Revolution and the President of the Republic Texas. Fast development of port and the railroads in the 19th century and also the beginning of oil production and the followed development of oil industry in the 20th century led to rapid growth of the population. In the 1960th years the number of inhabitants exceeded 1 million people and in the earth 2 million. The city is the leading world center of the energy industry, and the city economy is also provided by the enterprises in the field of aeronautics, transport and healthcare. The major objects for economy and infrastructure of the city are the Space Center of Lyndon Johnson, the largest American port on the international cargo transportation, the Houston Ship Canal, the world's largest Texas medical center. The city is called in honor of Samuel Houston, the Commander-in-Chief of Army of Texas during the Texas Revolution, 1835-1836, and the President of the Republic Texas, 1836, 1838, 1841, 1844. Official nickname of Houston, Space City, which can be translated as the Space City, the City of Astronautics, or the name is given because there is a Space Center of Lyndon Johnson. In total the city has 12 nicknames. After the end of War for Independence of Texas in August 1836, entrepreneurs brothers Augustus and John of Aliona purchased 26.9 km lands along the river of Buffalo Bayou, being going to found on its settlement. They wanted that future city became the capital of Texas and large shopping center. Foundation date of the city: it is considered to be on August 30, 1836 when Aliona's brothers placed the announcement of emergence of the city. The city was called in honor of the General Sam Houston heading Army of Texans in fight at San Jacinto during war against Mexico after Texas elected the president. For January 1837 only 12 people lived in the settlement, however in 4 months the population increased up to 1,500 people. On June 5, 1837 the city was included in the district of Garrisburg, nowadays Harris, and became the temporary capital of the Republic Texas, which remained till 1839. James Holman became the first mayor of Houston. The 19th century. In 1840 residents of Houston created Chamber of Commerce, which activity was aimed at business development on shipping and recently built port to Buffalo Bayou. Within the first 4 years the chamber promptly developed. The importance of Chamber of Commerce grew in economy. In 1853 the Legislative Assembly of Texas allocated money for improvement of channels Buffalo Bayou. In 1846 the city was a part of the U.S.A. together with the Republic Texas. By 1860 the railroads which connected Houston, Galveston and Beaumont were paved. Same year Houston became the railway junction for export of cotton. During Civil War the city served as the headquarters of the General John Magruder, using it as organizational point for battle at Galveston. In the 1860th years, an object important for city economy, the channel on Buffalo Bayou continued to develop. Active trade between Houston and the nearby cities began with the middle of the 19th century. By 1890 the city became the railway center of Texas. To the end of the century in the city there were already electric lighting, streets from blocks and cobblestones. City public transport was represented by the horse tram. The 20th century. In 1900 the Galveston hurricane, continuing from August 27 to September 12, fell upon Houston. In terms of 2 days rate the damage would be $526 million, 8,000 people died. Next year the big field then of oil near the city of Beaumont was found that served as the beginning of development of oil industry in Texas. In 1902 the United States President Theodore Roosevelt approved the project worth $1 million on reconstruction of the Houston Ship Canal. By 1910 the population of the city reached 78800 people, having almost twice exceeded the number of the inhabitants living in Houston in 1900. In 1914 the United States President Woodrow Wilson took part in opening of the new deepwater port of Houston, and in a year the Houston Ship Canal was open. By 1930 Houston became the biggest city of Texas, having overtaken on population such cities as Dallas, Fort Worth and Austin. World War II became a powerful incentive for economic development of the city. Because of sharply increased needs of the U.S.A. for oil products and synthetic rubber along the Ship City Canal, several petroleum chemical plants and production enterprises were built. Those years Houston became the large center for production of petrochemical products. However, during the same period the level of the tonnage of the vessels which are in port decreased. The airport Ellington Field, constructed even during World War I and reconstructed in 1940-1941, served as training center on training of flight personnel of BBC. In 1945 forming of the Texas Medical Center was begun. In the late 40s several suburbs were included in city line, therefore Houston Square increased more than twice. In the 1950th years of management of many large, generally oil companies of the USA moved to Houston, that favorably was reflected in city economy. Some of reasons for moving were served by Massachusetts equipment of all offices as conditioners. Air conditioning. It was a basis for rapid growth of Houston in 1950, when it became the city which is the most equipped with conditioners in the world. It stimulated many corporations to move the headquarters to Houston. In 1962, 1964 and 25 miles to the south from the center of Houston, on the lands transferred to the federal government by Rice University, the control center of spaceships since 1973, bearing a name of Lyndon Johnson, was constructed. In the 1968 years the population of Houston reached 1 million people. Growth of the population in the mid-80s sharply stopped when price of oil, because of crisis of overproduction of oil, began to fall promptly and to worsen a situation in urban economy. In 1986 the Space Challenger shuttle exploded. This tragic incident has also an adverse effect on the space industry. The population of the city for this decade grew by only 2.3%. Since the end in the 1980th years as a result of recession, Houston makes efforts on diversification of the economy, having concentrated attention on development of the aerospace industry, healthcare, biotechnologies and reduction of dependence on the oil industry. In the odd years the population reached 2 million people, and its growth for this period was 7.5% and continues to grow steadily, having reached growth in 9.7% for the second decade of century. 2010-2020. In August 2005, 240,000 residents of New Orleans, upon which the Hurricane Katrina fell, were evacuated to Houston. Subsequently, up to 40,000 people it was necessary to live in the city. One of the main exports for the city in modern history are periodic floods and significant material damage from them that is caused by lack of laws on zoning which could regulate construction of buildings on various terrestrial surfaces and support infrastructure for counteraction to natural cataclysms. In particular, the hurricanes Allison and Ike, which happened in 2001 and 2008 respectively, brought damage in $16.67 billion to the Houston region. In September 2005, because of threat of collapse of the Hurricane Rita from the city, Massachusetts, evacuation of inhabitants, which led to the biggest traffic jams for all history of the city, began. Nevertheless, the city especially did not suffer from a hurricane, having avoided the main blow of elements. In May 2015 and April 2016, Houston was exposed to a flood because of heavy rains, and in August 2017 the Hurricane Harvey fell upon the city that resulted in material damage, record in the history of the USA, in $125 billion, and 282 died citizens. Houston is located in 50 kilometers from the Gulf of Mexico on the coastal plain. A considerable part of the city was constructed on forest lands, swamps and prairies. They still remained in nearby areas near Houston. The city is located in the territory for which frequent heavy rains and rains, therefore for Houston floods, a permanent problem, are usual. City height above sea level on average 15 meters, the highest point Houston Northwest 38 meters. The square of the city makes 1,739.3 km, from which 1658 1 km are occupied with the land, and 81.2 km a surface of the water. The city is in a zone of subtropical monsoonal climate on Köppen's classification. The prevailing southeast winds from the Gulf of Mexico blow for all year. The big humidity in the city is caused by close presence of the Gulf of Mexico. The humidity of air reaches in the morning of 90% and by noon decreases to 70%. On average 90 days in a year solar, most of which part in October and November. 160 days in a year cloudy, the most part from December to May. In the spring and in the summer in the city hot, it is also damp. Average temperature in the spring of 21 C, and in the summer minus 28.8 C. Because of high temperature, almost in all vehicles and buildings conditioners are installed. The absolute maximum of temperature was registered in 2000 and 2011 when it was 42.8 C. Hurricanes, the largest of which for the last decades, Allison and Ike, often fall upon Houston. Fall, rather warm season, especially September. Temperature this month is higher than in May. Average temperature is 21.8 C in the fall, and an average amount of precipitation, the highest in a year, 359.7. Warm winter. The lowest temperature was registered in 1930, 15 C. Average temperature is 12.6 C in the winter, and maximum was registered in 1986, 32.8 C. 18 days in a year temperature fall below 0 C. Usually in the winter of draft drop out in the form of a rain, but can seldom be also in the form of snow. Since 1895, snow fell 35 times, and 21 times were established temporary snow cover. Availability of sedimentary rocks and sand is characteristic of soils of Houston. On a surface erosion are frequent. In the territory of the city there are about 300 breaks, their total length about 500 km. One of them, Long Point Eureka Heights Fault System. Also there are unique deposits from mix of sands and clays. Thanks to them, through certain time, oil and natural gas are formed of the decaying organic matter. On the outskirts of Houston, black fertile soil on which raise rice, soy, grain crops, vegetables, meats and breed cattle, horses, pigs and poultry. In the city and its vicinities there is very small probability of a strong earthquake, and the strongest earthquake measuring 3.8 was in 1910. In Houston 4 rivers flow. The main, Buffalo Bayou, passes through the downtown and the Houston Ship Canal, and has 3 inflows. Breeze Bayou proceeds along the area of the Texas Medical Center. Sims Bayou passes through the southern part of the city. Wetumpka Bayou, through a northern part of the city. The Ship Canal follows further to Galveston, up to the Gulf of Mexico. In the suburbs there are 2 lakes, Conroe and Huston, who are a reservoir and are city sources of water. In the territory of the city the set of underground waters which actively used earlier for water supply, but ceased because of the slow movement of the land surface proceeds. Flora and fauna. In flora and fauna of the district of Harris, animal species and the plants living in marsh areas as the considerable part of the city is constructed on swamps and prairies prevail. Among amphibia and reptiles the Houston toad and the Texas horned lizard are most known. Among mammals it is possible to mark out a red wolf, an ocelot and a Canadian otter. Among birds are noticed American cluevac and a white-headed sea eagle. The number of the majority of animals for the last century was considerably reduced within the district and is under the threat of disappearance because of their destruction and deterioration in an ecological situation. The mosquitoes constituting danger to the person are also found in the city. Pines, palm trees and other trees growing in subtropical climate grow in the city and its suburbs. It is possible to distinguish from the plants growing in the city orchids and magnolias. The main sources of air pollution in Houston are exhaust gases from cars and also emissions from more than 400 chemical companies, among which 2 large oil refineries and a petrochemical complex along the Ship Canal and port. This situation is complicated by weather conditions. From April to October in the city a large number of sunny windless days with a high temperature and humidity because of what emissions settle over the city. Is a result of the developed ecological situation. From all diseases are most widespread respiratory and oncological.
According to the American Pulmonary Association, in 2016 Houston took the 16th place in the list of the most polluted cities of the USA on concentration of harmful substances and the 15th place on ozone pollution.
At the beginning of the year, the situation with air quality was even worse. Houston conceded on pollution level only to Los Angeles.
Not better a situation with water. Houston takes the 95th place from 100 largest cities of the USA on water quality.
The head of Houston is the mayor. The mayor is the main official. He is responsible for the common directorship with the city, signs all resolutions and the laws adopted by municipal council and watches that they were carried out. In addition, the mayor represents to council annual city budget for approval, and then provides to council information on its execution.
The mayor is elected citizens by vote at most for 2 terms, for 4 years everyone.
Since January 2, 2016 the post of the mayor is held by Sylvester Turner, the member of Democratic Party.
City. Municipal. Council of Houston consists of 11 people chosen from 11 constituencies, and 5 people chosen from all city in general.
Members of council are elected for the same term, as well as the mayor. Appointment of the elected mayor, change and confirmation of city budget, management of the city real estate, allocation and bond issue, signing of the contracts and approval of city expenses on the amount more than $50,000 are included into power of council.
The city controller, to whose duties belongs to distribute funds and to finance the city budget, is elected irrespective of the mayor and council.
Since January 2, 2016 this position is held by Chris Brown. Houston, the largest city of the USA without administrative division. The city is the administrative center of the district of Harris and also the main economic center of Big Houston.
In Houston Mayor's office there is a Department of International Trade and Development which is engaged in interaction of city administration with the international business community.
In 2018 Houston was visited by 165 foreign delegations from 40 countries. In Houston consulates of 82 countries are located. By the number of consulates the city takes in the USA the 3rd place after New York and Los Angeles. At the moment Houston has 18 twin cities. From July 9 to July 11, 1990 in the city the 16th summit of the G took place.
Annually in Houston the international conferences, such as Offshore Technology Conference and Chair Week where issues of power are discussed are held.
More than 430 Houston companies have offices abroad and also in the city offices of 800 foreign companies are located. Official symbols. The flag of the city was accepted in 1915. On it the 5-pointed star on a blue background is represented. In a star the engine of 220 type. On the American classification. -4-4-0 American. It is connected with the fact that at the end of the beginning of the 20th century's engines of this type were widespread on the American continent, in particular they drove trains to the city. The new flag represented a little changed previous option of a flag of the city accepted in 1840. Change of locomotives was the cause.
The engine of 210 type extended in 1830-1850 was replaced with the engine of 220 type represented on a flag till present.
Houston Seal was approved by City Council of Houston on February 24, 1840. The seal was developed by the being mayor of Houston, Francis Morger. The lonely star, one of symbols of Texas, and its presence on a seal designates city belonging to the Republic Texas. The locomotive identifies progress, which embodiment railway traffic also was during acceptance of a seal. Houston served as the railway center for many years. The plow symbolizes agriculture of Texas.
Houston is one of the leading cities of the world in spheres of production and oil refining and natural gas because of what often hereinafter is referred to as the power capital of the world, and also biomedical researches and aeronautics.
Also, Houston has reputation of the green city, as a half of the electric power is made by means of solar and wind installations. The large role in the transport sphere of the city is played by port. In Houston, 21 companies from the list of Fortune 500, which is included into 500 largest companies, are based.
The gross internal product of agglomeration of Big Houston in 2017 made $490.1 billion and is the seventh largest among indicators of other agglomerations.
Mining industry occupies 25.2% in structure of GDP, industrial production -16.9%, transactions with insurance, the real estate and finance -13%. Houston takes the second place among agglomerations of the USA on the export of goods, which made $84.1 billion, from which $68.2 billion are the share of the District of Harris in 2016. The main items of export making 67.1% of all amount in the amount: oil and gas, oil products, chemical products, and 16.4% machine and computer products. The main partners in export: Mexico -17.6% of total number, Canada -10.9%, China -6.35%, Brazil -6%, the Netherlands -4.1%. The international research company Mercer in 2019 allocated to Houston the 66th place in the rating of the cities of the world most comfortable for accommodation, on an equal basis with the American Los Angeles and Miami, and the 86th place among the cities of the world at life cost, between the American Dallas and the Australian Adelaide.
In category The Best Places for Business and Career, according to the Forbes magazine for 2018, Houston takes the 38th place in Shaw.
The A.T. Kearney Research Company delivered Houston on 41 places in the list of the global cities of the world.
By 1988 years in the city, mainly oil industry making 87% of all city economy, that resulted in serious dependence on prices of oil, was developed.
In the mid-80s in city economy there was a recession owing to an oil crisis of the decade that led to lost 220,000 jobs. Since the end of the 1980th years, Houston diversifies the economy, having concentrated attention on development of the aerospace industry, healthcare, information technologies, and such large organizations as the Texas Medical Center and City Port can be a striking example. The share of the oil industry in economy decreased twice, from 87% to 44% by 2016. The low price of oil, which is observed since 2015, makes negative impact on city economy at the moment. In the city, reduction of prices of the real estate and construction of facilities is observed. The minimum wage in Houston in an hour makes $7.25 or $12.57 a month. Unemployment for December 2018 made 3.9%. Below the poverty line there are 9.2% of inhabitants. The average income of family for 2018 according to Forbes is $62900, and the average price of the house is $. In Houston there are more than 5,000 energy companies connected with business in this region. In the city there is headquarters of a set of the energy and oil companies entering the list of Fortune 500. Houston is a member of the World Partnership of the Power Cities. One of the largest companies providing with the electric power the city is the Centerpoint Energy Company, which delivers electricity not only for Texas, but also for Arkansas, Louisiana, Minnesota, Mississippi, Oklahoma. More than 5 million people use company services.
Other large energy company Calpine possesses the park from 79 power plants of the different types scattered across all territory of U.S.A.
One of them, Channel Energy Center, is located in Houston, on the bank of the Ship Canal. One more, Baytown Energy Center, in the suburbs Baytown. The maximum power of the Houston power plant -808 megawatts. Basic -723 medium. Baytonsky power plant in the peak mode is capable to produce 842 megawatts.
Basic electric power -782 medium.
In the territory of Big Houston Mother Country 7 power plants of Calpine work. Houston is one of the largest production centers of the world for the petrochemical industry. In the city more than 3,700 organizations working in the sphere of petrochemistry are located.
Also in the Houston region there are 9 oil refineries processing 2.3 million barrels a day that makes 13.2% of all processing in U.S.A.
Also in Houston there are 719 enterprises for creation of chemical and plastic products.
In the city there are 17.5% of the jobs taken in the sphere of petrochemistry from all places in the U.S.A.
112.6 thousand from 643.3 thousand.
The city takes a leading place on production of goods from polyethylene.
38.7% of all production in the U.S.A. Polyvinyl chloride. 35.9%. And polypropylene. 48.4%.
In Houston, the Space Center of Lyndon Johnson, representing the research and design enterprise in which 15,000 people,
3,000 engineers and scientists, 12,000 other workers. Work is located. In total in the city more than 150 organizations dealing with the space industry are located. Near Houston there are production capacities of the Lockheed Martin Company and also office of the program of construction of the Orion spaceship for NASA. In the city production capacities of the Boeing Company and also the headquarters of Division of Boeing Space Exploration, Researching Space Systems are located. The capacities of the Beechcraft Company which are in the airport of the Hobby are engaged in technical. It is served also by repair of aircrafts. The Barrios Technology Company carries out the contracts for NASA connected with the Orion ship and also develops the software for the Boeing aircrafts. Other large contractors of orders of NASA in Houston are Computer Sciences Corporation, maintenance and modification of planes, Jacobs Engineering Group, Engineering Science, L-3 Communications, the Robo-Equipment, May Technologies, Electric Engineering Systems, Oceaneering International, Spacesuits and the Applied Hardware, Raytheon, Laboratory of Neutral Buoyancy and Models of Spaceships, SAIC, Security and Support of Missions. United Space Alliance, the Coordination Center of Information, United Technologies, Extra Ship Activity, Weil Laboratories, Space Biology.
Considerable part of foreign trade of the city passes through its port, taking the second place in the USA on goods turnover.
265.9 thousand tons. In the fall of 2000, the City Coffee Companies created Association of the Coffee Companies of Big Houston.
The association tries to make the city the large port for delivery and export of coffee.
After the Hurricane Katrina, the most part of traffic of coffee switched to Houston. In Houston there are 22 foreign banks and do business of 790 foreign companies. In the city there are shops of large retail networks: Walmart, Kroger, H-E-B, Target, Randall's Food Markets and others.
Besides, the attention is drawn by Galleria, the largest shopping center in Texas and the 8th in the USA.
One of tourist attractions is the Space Center of Lyndon Johnson. For a review the set of interesting exhibits, spacecrafts, lunar breeds is opened. In the same place it is possible to get acquainted with the presentation about the history of the space flight Hawker program. The attention of tourists is drawn by the Houston Zoo, Aquapark, an oceanarium and other vacation spots. In Houston there are more than 400 companies on development of the software.
An important role in information technologies of Houston is played by TranStar Center, partnership of 4 government agencies which bear responsibility for operational information on force majeure. From the moment of the creation in 1999, the Houston Technology Center became the city center of technologies and entrepreneurships, which helped more than 300 to the developing companies, which increased total income from this industry more than by $2.5 billion and created about 5,000 new jobs.
The prevailing type of transport is the car, as by it for work there go about 75% of residents.
Total length of network of highways minus 6,768.9 km.
Through the city there pass 2 important state highways. Interstate 45 and Interstate 10, connecting the south with the north and the west with the east respectively. In Houston there are 2 large transport rings. The first, Interstate 610, and the second, Sam Houston Tollway, which construction was completed in 2011. In addition, construction of the third ring, Route 286 came along, Texas State Highway 99, which will come to the end in 2023 and will become the biggest ring highway in U.S.A. is conducted. The main problem of transport of Houston are traffic jams. The most loaded routes are Interstate 45 and 10 and also the first transport ring. In 2014, residents of Houston spent 61 hours for standing in traffic jams, the 8th place after Washington, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Boston, Seattle and Chicago. The main operator of services of the public transport in Houston provided by buses and the high-speed tram is the Metro Company. The daily passenger traffic in public transport of the city in the third quarter May 2018 219.3 thousand people, of them 6,000 by high-speed tram. The bus movement is opened in 1979. Now 74 city routes and 12 suburban and also high-speed quick line route. Work. The modern tram called by Metrorail started on January 1, 2004 works in the city. The tram system consists of 3 lines with a total length of 36.5 km and 39 stations. In 2012 there was a system of joint use of bicycles, Houston Bicycle numbering 90 stations and 635 bicycles, which services in 2017 over 52.3 thousand inhabitants used, having made 142.2 thousand trips. In Houston there are 3 airports.
Houston Intercontinental of George Bush, Ellington Field and William P.
Hobby Airport. The airport Houston Intercontinental was opened on June 8, 1969 for commercial air transportation, and began to serve a part of passenger flights from William P. Hobby Airport later. The passenger traffic in 2016 made 43.8 million people. The 47th place among the airports of the world to this indicator, and the 14th place among the U.S.A. airports. On average, the airport daily sends and accepts more than 700 flights. The airport of William Hobby was constructed in 1927 as private airfield. By the end of World War II the airport was reconstructed, and in 1950 the first international flight was accepted. In 1969 all flights were transferred to the new airport Houston Intercontinental. Now it is positioned as the regional center of corporate and personal aircraft, and also as the spare airport for internal flights. For 2017 served 44 million passengers. In the territory of the airport there is its museum. The airport Ellington was constructed in 1917. During the First and Second World Wars the airport served as training base, and at the moment is still used for the military purposes and also for needs of aircraft of NASA, private and civil aviation. Through the city there passes the railway passenger Amtrak system. The Houston station is a part of the Sunset Limited line and in financial 2018 served passengers. City improvement. For 2012 in Houston there were 902,153 houses, 15% are constructed of them after 1999. 12.3% from all houses were offered for sale, leased, or in them there were no permanent residents for other reasons.
Also in the city the high mobility of the population is 51.
8% of Houstonese had the last moving in 2014 is observed. The Houston Department of Housing Company, operated by local authorities, is responsible for city housing stock.
The company appeared in 1938, and in 1970 and 1980 there was an expansion of the organization for a measure of growth of the population. In Houston 2 types of the housing programs focused on segments of the population with low prosperity on elderly people and disabled people are implemented.
Voucher program and state housing. The voucher program offers preferential payment of lease of the house. In this case the family pays lease of 40% of the income. The state housing program realizes the 8th point of the federal law on housing, 1937, providing preferential allocation of houses to the unprotected segments of the population in Houston. More than 60,000 Houstonese used this program. According to nonprofit organization on protection of land, the Trust for Public Land Resources, the green space of Houston is supervised by 5 various services. The most part of the territory of green plantings of the city is in the sphere of responsibility of the Houston Department of Parks and Rest. The remaining park area which is within the city is distributed between other nature protection bodies. Thus, for 2016, all territory of green grounds occupied 13.8% of the total area occupied by the city, and Houston won first place among all million-plus cities of the USA across the territory of green grounds. In total in the city there are 337 parks. The water supply system of Houston includes a water supply system 11.3 thousand km long of Houston, 3 water treatment stations and 92 pump stations. Daily residents spend a little more than 1.5 billion liters of water. Reservoirs: Houston, Conroe, Livingston, the main sources of drinking water. Average depth of wells from which water minus 228 meters is pumped. Water which flows from cranes of residents contain 46 harmful chemicals. In comparison with 2004, their quantity was reduced, but despite it, Houston takes the 95th place from 100 largest cities of the USA on water quality. The Drinking Water Operations Company is engaged in water supply of the city. The city sewer system consists of network 11.2 thousand km long and 124.5 thousand hatches.
The CenterPoint Energy Company, and which services about 2.1 million residents and the next suburbs, is responsible for Houston power supply. In addition to CenterPoint Energy, other operator of services of power supply is Calpine.
In the territory of Big Houston agglomeration, 8 power plants of this company work. One of them, Channel Energy Center, is located in Houston, on the bank of the Ship Canal, which maximum power minus 808 MUM. Basic minus 723 MUM. Houston's reputation of the Green City is a half of the consumed electric power is made by the city by means of solar and wind installations. In total the city spends 1.246 million MUM an hour. Population censuses in 1790, 2010, these population censuses in 2020. According to data of an United States Census in 2020, 2,304,580 people lived in the city. It is 9.7% more than in 2010. The population of the city, since its basis, constantly grows.
In the 1960th years it reached 1 million inhabitants, and in the odd years exceeded 2 million.
Population density averages 1389 people/km. Age composition of the population. Up to 19 years minus 28.67%. From 20 to 44 years minus 39.83%. From 45 to 64 years minus 22.45%. Of 65 years minus 9.05%. Middle age is 32 years. The number of women from all population minus 49.82%, men minus 50.18%.
Because of proximity to Mexico, the share of natives of Latin America makes 43.8% of all population. In absolute figures, the number of Latin Americans grew from 731 to 920,000 people for the period 2000-2010. It's a complete and racial structure of the city is taken by white people who make 25.6% of urban population. Their number in a decade decreased by 10% from 602 to 538,000 people.
Also considerable population is occupied by the Afro-Americans, 23.1%, and Asians, 6.15%. A little more than 1% make faces of other nationalities. Immigration to Houston in 2015 made 19630 people. 28% of residents of Houston were born in other country. 72.5% from Latin America, 18.9% from Asia, 3.9% and 3.8% from Africa and Europe respectively, 0.2% from Oceania. Till 1968 years people from Europe, but with adoption in 1965 of the new law on immigration and nationality and which cancelled quotas of N-worthy main immigrants, most of immigrants began to come from Latin America, Asia and Africa. In 2005 240,000 residents of New Orleans upon which the Hurricane Katrina fell were evacuated to Houston. Subsequently, up to 40,000 people it was necessary to live in the city. 50% of residents talk only in English. 34% of inhabitants talk in Spanish, on 1%, on Vietnamese and Chinese, on 0.4% in French, Urdu, Arab, Hindi, the Tagalog and Korean languages. In total in the city talk more than in 100 languages. 18.44% of inhabitants profess Catholicism, 16.29% Baptism, 4.68% Methodism, 2.86% Islam, 0.53% Judaism. In total practice religion of 58.4% of Houstonese, 41.6% non-believers. An important role in Houston healthcare is played by the world's largest medical center, the Texas Medical Center founded in 1945. The medical center consists of 54 organizations providing residents with medical care. Over 8 million people are visited by the center annually. At the large medical center of Houston, the Texas Medical Center, Memorial German, where in a year 6,000 transactions are carried out and 57,300 visits are served. In total in the city of 136 medical institutions and 21057 beds. In health sector 16,100 doctors work. The largest medical Sam Houston State University's Medical Research Center of the University of Texas and the Oncological Center of Doctor of Medicine. Anderson of the University of Texas. From all diseases in the city are most widespread respiratory and oncological. The main causes of death of residents of the District of Harris, oncological diseases. 22.6%. Heart diseases, 22%. Accidents, 5.7%. A stroke, 5.2%. The District of Harris in 2016 took the 56th place among 254 districts of Texas according to the rating of health. The expected life expectancy in the District of Harris at women -80.7 years. At men -76.1 years. In Houston there are 18 school districts. The Houston Independent School District, HIS, with 280 schools and 209,000 pupils, is the largest school district of Texas and the seventh in U.S.A. Also, there are charter schools which do not enter school districts. They are visited from 12 to 13,000 children. In the city, more than 300 private schools, among them are also religious.
For example, 59 schools are Catholic. They are under authority of the Archdiocese Galveston-Houston. The number of students in them is about 180,000 children.
In 2012, at public schools, 90.6% of all number of pupils, in private -9.4% studied. Education in the city is provided by 15 higher educational institutions and also over 100 specialized secondary institutions, colleges, technical and professional schools, in which 315,000 students totally study. 4 universities: the Houston University, the University Houston, Clergy Lake, the Houston Downtown University and the Houston Victoria University form the Houston University system.
The largest university and the center of the Houston University system, the Houston University, totaling 4,634 students in 2018, has the status public. This university is among the first 300 universities in the academic rating of the universities of the world and also in number of 700 universities in the rating of the World Universities Queues. Also the private universities, the largest of which, the Rice University, taking the 70th place in the academic rating of the universities of the world and the 87th place in the rating of the World Universities Queues, and also St. Thomas's University, function.
All colleges are united in 3 systems: Houston Public System of Colleges, Lonely Star, and System of Colleges of San Jacinto. In the city, biotechnology develops. The research park of the University under construction of Texas focused on the sphere of development and application of biotechnologies, the joint project of the Texas Oncological Center of Doctor of Medicine, Anderson and Medical Research Center of the University of Texas. An important role in development of this industry is played by the Texas Medical Center and several biological universities. In total, in activity of biotechnology, over 19,000 people work. Houston plays an important role in world astronautics. In the city, the Space Center of Lyndon Johnson, representing the research and design enterprise, is located. In Houston, there is an office of the program of construction of the Orion spaceship for U.S.A. Houston in 2016 took the 13th place among the cities of the USA on education level. Nevertheless, on the level of education of the population, the city takes only the 99th place. In Big Houston agglomeration as of 2016, 31.5% of people have the higher education. 20.1% bachelor's, 11.4% master's. While 17.7% did not graduate from school. Crime. The staff of Department of Police of Houston for 2017 totaled 6,334 employees. 5,221 police officers and 1,113 other employees. The crime rate in Houston since the 1960 has steadily increased. In the 1970 years, the number of especially serious crimes considerably increased by 85%, and only for 1981, for 17%, that became the highest rate among the cities of U.S.A. In 1973, the serial killer Dean Corll with the accomplices raped and killed 28 young men. These events are known as the Houston Massacre.
Crime continued to grow, having reached the greatest number of crimes in 1988-1991.
Over crimes for every year.
The mayor Bob Lanier, who got up on a post in 1992, increased financing of police, therefore crime decreased by 31.4% during its board.
1992-1997. Crime continued to decrease further. In 2011, the smallest number of murders since 1965 was recorded. According to data of the website Neighborhoods.at, in 2015 the Houston region of U.S.A. is the second in the rating of crime on regions of U.S.A.
Because of close arrangement to Mexico and availability in the city of airport terminals and the automobile routes, Houston became one of the main centers of the USA on illegal export of drugs and also on human trafficking.
From December 2007 to June 2015 in Houston, 717 cases of human trafficking were revealed. Museums and theaters. Annually, museum area is visited by 8.7 million people. Main museums of Houston: Children's Museum, Museum of Modern Art, Museum of Fire, Museum of Health, Museum of a Holocaust, Menil Collection, Museum of Fine Arts, Museum of Natural Sciences, Museum of Weather.
The theatrical district of Houston is located in the downtown, consists of 17 buildings. All this does it by the second largest theatrical concentration in the USA after New York.
In the city there are on a permanent basis theaters of the main performing art forms: the Opera, Houston Grand Opera, the Ballet, the Houston Ballet Theater, the Drama, the Avenue Theater, Music, the Houston Symphonic Orchestra. Other important theatrical building is the Hobby Center of Executive Arts. Here too folk contractors, on-stage performance groups and a set of the small organizations of progressive types of arts found a shelter. This city is the arena of numerous tours, performances, concerts, show and exhibitions on various interests. In Houston, various events and holidays are annually spent.
For 20 days, since the end of February until the beginning of March, the world's largest passes a rodeo, the Houston Festival of Livestock Production, and a rodeo which is annually visited by more than 2 million people.
Other large action is the Night Gay Parade, which is taking place at the end of June. Annually in the city there take place the Greek Festival and a parade of art cars. Every 2 years there takes place the BU City Art Festival, entering the 5 of the best festivals of arts. Also annually in January there passes the marathon, which is bringing together more than 2,000 persons interested. Sites. Houston architecture includes a large amount of architectural styles.
The city inspired many architects as Houston quickly outgrew to internationally recognized shopping and industrial center of Texas and the USA.
The city is built up rather evenly. At the same time, in areas of low building there are no high-rise buildings.
Skyscrapers are located only in the downtown, and an exception is the 64-story skyscraper Williams Tower, 275 meters high, who is in the dormitory area. In the downtown, the system of tunnels and the covered transitions with a total length of 9.7 km which connects 95 quarters is laid.
In the tunnel the set of restaurants and shops is located. Within the 1960th years of the 20th century the city center consisted only of low buildings. Then in 1970th and 1980th several tens of skyscrapers, including the highest in the city, a 302-meter tower to 71 floors designed by Birmingham, which is also the highest pentagonal building in the world, were constructed. Slightly more than 90% of office space are located in the downtown. The oldest place of Houston is Allen's Landing. There was a city in 1837. The territory of the historic district makes 27 km. Now Allen Park and Tontanski Sam Houston State University is in this place. In Houston there is an Episcopal Church of the Trinity in the area midtown. Date of construction of this construction -1919. The church is constructed in Neo-Gothic style by Crum and Ferguson.
This company is also known for the works of several buildings of Rice University and Houston Public Library.
The monument to the Texas Revolution is also established.
San Jacinto's monument represents a high column 174 meters high with a 220-ton star at top.
Around Haight there are ancient bungalows constructed at the beginning of the 19-20 centuries. Slightly to the south of a skyscraper Williams Tower is in the area uptown the multi-storied sculptural fountain, Williams Waterfall. The fountain was constructed in 1983 and is the semicircle 20 meters high surrounded with the park from 118 Texas evergreen oaks. In total in the city there are 337 parks. Known parks: Herman Park, Terry, the Hershey Park, Lake Huston Park, Memorial Park, the Park of Tranquility, Sam Houston's Park. In Sam Houston's Park are at home, constructed between 1823 and 1905. Massachusetts media. In Houston broadcast 29 radio stations. One of the largest radio stations, CUF, belongs to the Houston University system. Houston Chronicle, the largest daily newspaper of Houston and the state of Texas, which belongs to the New York corporation Hearst Corporation.
In 2014 the daily circulation of the newspaper was 356,347 copies. That puts it on the 16th place on circulation among all newspapers.
Till 1995 there was Houston Post, but Houston Chronicle was absorbed. Today the Houston Press Weekly remains the only main alternative city edition. Its weekly circulation was 2016 43810 copies. In Houston the Houston Business Journal newspaper, which is a part of the American City Business Journals company, is issued. Sport.
In Houston there are teams from all main professional sports leagues of America, except for NANL.
The main sports constructions of the city are Toyota Center, home arena for Huston Rockets and Huston Aeros, and Minute Maid Park, where act Huston Astros, located in Huston Center.
Here too are Reliant Astrodome, the first dome-shaped stadium in the world and the first in NFL stadium with the moving roof.
Among other sports arenas, Robertson, on which play teams of the Houston University, the Hofkanes Pavilion and Rice Stadium, at which the soccer team of Rice University plays. The Sports Summit Complex, nowadays church, was the main sports arena of the Huston Rockets team in 1975-2003. In Houston there took place final matches of different sports competitions, including an All-Star Game of Major League Baseball of 2004 and an All-Star Game of NBA of 2006 more than once. The city took a match for the champions title in National Football League twice, Super Bowl. In 1974 at Rice Stadium and in 2004 at Reliant Stadium. Relay Anti-Astrodi also accepted WrestleMania H7, passing in 2001 and brought together nearly 68000 people, and Unrela onto their past, WrestleMania 25, in 2009. In 1998, 2001, 2006, 2007 and 2013, 2014 on city streets there passed the Grand Prix auto racing. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.